Yeah, hi folks. Now, as you may have noticed lately, the attack on farmers, which is an attack on food, is happening across the world at exactly the same time. So it is clearly globally driven by the terrorists at the WEF and the UN. And of course, their puppet terrorists like Ardern and Albanese are happy to oblige. Just like these people, who are also good terrorists, fighting for the good religion.
This is what happens when direct action prompts a public reaction. Anger erupted after a rush hour train was held up for more than 10 minutes, and neither station staff nor the police intervened.
You come to work in your car. Imagine someone needs to go to hospital or something.
With other Extinction Rebellion members gluing themselves to trains, commuters couldn't understand why public transport had become the latest target.
They're doing it the wrong way. They're doing it for the right reasons, but they're doing it the wrong way. No.
They're doing it for the right reasons, but they're doing it the wrong way. They get a pass because they are good terrorists.
Some crazy news today. You know, you've been lied to. The real danger is not global warming. It's global warming panic, the scaremongering. This afternoon, a magistrate dismissed all charges against 22-year-old Marley Cooper. She's the global warming protester who locked her neck to her car and blocked traffic on the Sydney Harbour Tunnel in June. Really stuffed things up for lots of people trying to get to places. Now, Cooper never apologised to all the people she'd inconvenienced by arrogantly blocking their road. I mean, so selfish. In fact, she was glad that her stunt got her a sympathetic hearing on the project, a reward, as it were.
I don't regret anything. I'm really grateful to be here now and to be able to have this conversation.
Well, like I said today, another reward. All charges against her were dropped by Magistrate Jeff Linden.
She doesn't have to pay because she's the good terrorist. Anyway, now to the bad terrorist.
So we want to tell you the story of a man called Paul Vaughn, leading off tonight. Paul Vaughn does not fit the profile of a terrorist. You'd never guess. He's 55 years old. He's a former pastor who now runs a small internet service business in Middle Tennessee. He and his wife are gentle people. They're faithful Christians. They spend most of their time raising their 11 children. So last Wednesday morning at about 7:15, bucolic scene at the Vaughn household. Several of Paul Vaughn's children are standing in the front yard about to head to school. Suddenly, out of nowhere, their world falls down around them. A team of FBI agents armed with automatic rifles swoops in SUVs and begins pounding on the front door of the family home. Inside the house, Paul Vaughn is watching this and he's shocked. As he said later, when I opened the door and saw the guns pointed at me, I asked them what they wanted. They said they wanted me, and they did. The agents led Paul Vaughn away. Inside the house, his wife, who'd been at the back with their newest child, an 18-month-old baby, ran to the front door. Confused and terrified, she asked what anyone would ask, "Who are you and why are you taking my husband away?" We don't need to guess about the exchange because it's on tape. Here's what it looked like.
But if you're not going to let me, then I'll just...
No, I want to know why you were banging on my door with a gun.
Hey, let's go after that.
You're not going to tell me anything?
No, we're not.
I tried.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
You did not try. This is not acceptable. Can I have your name? You're not going to give me your name? You're not going to give me any information? I want to know why you were banging on my...
Body armor, little watch caps, automatic weapons held at the ready, taking off with her husband. "Why are you taking him? Who are you?" she asks. But of course they completely ignore her. No, we're not going to answer. We tried when they didn't. They don't have to answer, because when your husband is a domestic terrorist, the government doesn't owe you an answer to the most basic questions. So Paul Vaughn, we now learn, is a terrorist. But what did he do? You may be wondering that by this point. Well, as the Department of Justice explained later in a statement, Paul Vaughn opposes abortion.
Anyway, now to Paul Vaughn and his lawyer.
When my kids go out to the car to go to school, and the FBI pulls up, armed, running to the door, and one of them goes to the kids and holds the kids with a long gun aside of my driveway and does not let them go into the house. That is absolutely, as my wife said in the video, unacceptable. And
So
there needs to be accountability.
Well, it's one of the most shocking things I think I've ever seen. I have to ask you, so the FBI, the Department of Justice, I can barely say that phrase with a straight face, is claiming that you're a violent extremist who is a physical threat to others. Do you embrace violence? Have you ever committed violence? What are they talking about?
No, I have no idea. There's absolutely no evidence of that. The only place that is ever even seen is in the documents that they made up and used to justify in their mind and through the justice system. Ones that signed off on this needed some kind of justification in their own minds to go after peaceful people that disagreed with them politically.
Peter Breen, thank you for working on this case, for defending Paul Vaughn. Do you think that this is actually going to go to trial?
Well, Tucker, when you've got a federal prosecutor after you, I mean, we always have to plan for that. You know, Paul wasn't even arrested by the local police for trespassing.
So he wasn't even arrested by the local police, yet here we have the FBI arresting him for terrorism.
But those who did, who were arrested, were leaning on the tradition of Dr. Martin Luther King. He himself was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. I mean, this is the great tradition of American civil disobedience, and it's not the sort of thing that you turn into a 10-year felony.
10-year felony for this.
I understand the principle behind what we're doing. Guys, I'm out. Hey, guys. We need to carry this outside, guys. We can't do it here. We cannot block up the hallways. We cannot block up the hallways, guys. We need to carry it outside. Do we have an understanding, guys? We need to carry it outside. We cannot block up the hallways. I'm going to order to disperse. Carry it outside, guys. We need to carry it outside, guys. We cannot block the hallways. Guys, carry it outside.
Hey guys, we're going to need you guys to disperse outside, okay? This is your last warning. I need everybody to step outside, go to the sidewalk. You're more than welcome to protest out on the sidewalk, okay? So I'm just asking real nicely, please, for you guys to leave. Go outside on the sidewalk, okay? You guys are more than welcome to protest that way. You can go down the steps or you can go down the elevator, but I do need you to leave.
Tell us what happened here. Are you talking to the police?
Yeah, he's not going to give an individual warning. He's going to give one disbursement, general disbursement, and he's going back to rest.
Yeah, now they didn't stick themselves to planes and subways and roads, etc. They didn't stop people going to hospitals. They didn't stop ambulances. They didn't stop fire engines. But somehow they are terrorists. Anyway, we're now back to the good terrorists.
please, man, the press streets over there.
We love you. We're doing this for your children. Police, we love you. We're doing this for your children.
We are doing this for your children.
It supported partial birth abortion up to the last second of birth. You know what partial birth abortion is? Step 1, the abortionist grabs one of the baby's legs with forceps. Step 2, the leg is pulled into the birth canal, so they're turning the baby around.
To be removed feet first.
Step 3, he uses his hands. The abortionist delivers the baby's body, the entire body, up to the neck. Then the abortionist forces scissors into the base of the baby's skull. He then opens the scissors to enlarge the hole. Then he takes a suction catheter. It's inserted into the hole, and the baby's brains are sucked out.
And that good terrorism is happening in New Zealand.
Prime Minister of New Zealand, and we love you, New Zealanders that watch.
Yeah, we love the people in New York and Seattle, too.
There she is, and she has allowed the most extreme abortion law in the world.
Jacinda
This is the
Ardern.
Prime Minister of New Zealand. Abortions will now be available on demand for any reason up to birth. Sex-selective abortions will be legalized, meaning if you find out you're having a boy and you want a girl, you can abort the baby. If you're having a girl and you want a boy, you can abort the baby.
It's murder.
The current 20-week limit for disability-selective abortion will be scrapped, and abortion will be available up to birth for disabilities including a cleft lip, a club foot, and Down syndrome. There will be no requirement that a doctor be involved with providing an abortion. How insane. How many women are going to die from that? There will be no legal requirement that babies born alive after a failed abortion will be given medical support. There will be no legal requirement that pain relief be given to babies being aborted between 20 weeks and birth.
And they can feel pain at that time.
There will be no legal restrictions on controversial methods of abortion such as intact dilation and extraction abortions, also known as partial birth abortion. That's when...
Yeah, and that radical good terrorism was pushed through under the cover of COVID against the will of the New Zealand people. Now, I recorded this yesterday, folks. Polling shows that the new law is strongly opposed by the public in New Zealand, and in particular by women, with only 2% of women supporting abortion being available on demand up to birth, 93% of women opposing sex-selective abortion being legal, and 94% of women supporting the current legal standards for abortion providers and premises. Given the extremely low public support for the change and the gap between MPs opposing and supporting was quickly closing, Jacinda Ardern's government rushed the final stages of the bill's progress through Parliament while MPs, media and the country were distracted with dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. This included progressing the final sitting of the committee stage and the bill's third and final reading through Parliament on the same day. The bill has also seen a very large backlash from the disability community, with over 1,200 people with Down syndrome and their families calling on the Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern to keep a pre-election promise not to introduce abortion up to birth for Down syndrome. An amendment hoping to put the issue to a public referendum failed in a conscience vote by 100 votes to 19 votes, denying the public a final say on the legislation. Additionally, the Abortion Legislation Committee only heard from 139 people who wanted to give oral feedback on the bill, despite over 25,000 submissions. By way of comparison, the Climate Change Response Zero Carbon Amendment Bill received just 10,000 written submissions, but the Environment Committee heard 1,500 oral submissions. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern was among 80 MPs responsible for defeating an attempt to require healthcare professionals to give medical help to babies born alive after failed abortions. Now folks, what I just read came from this article. New Zealand PM rushes world's most extreme abortion legislation into law while country distracted with pandemic. Now folks, that smile says it all.
Now to lacklustre Luxon on this good terrorism.
And Mr O'Connor put his boss, who's also anti-abortion, in a tricky spot.
And I want to be really clear, that's not the National Party position.
Mr Luxon wanting to get this message across.
I want women in New Zealand to have absolute certainty that when I'm the Prime Minister of New Zealand and in a national government, that they know that our abortion laws are not going to be relitigated or revisited, that they know that funding for those health services will be maintained.
So, sucking the brains out of a baby is now a health service? Now let's go back to the UN and listen to Ardern again.
How do you tackle climate change if people do not believe it exists?
Well, you'll call them terrorists, won't you?
Counter-terrorism legislation bill passes into law. The new counter-terrorism law's major change is to add the criminal offence of planning or preparation for a terrorist act. Now, what exactly is a terrorist act? Now, if Biden's FBI can call an anti-abortion protest a terrorist act, then Ardern can easily call an anti-climate change protest a terrorist act. For example, if farmers were to stage or plan to stage a huge protest at the Beehive for months on end, she would stoop that low.
Yeah, now folks, the attack on farmers is disgusting. And the only way back for them now is to lock down the Beehive for months on end, just like the COVID protest. Anyway, folks, I posted all the relevant links below.